There's only two ways to react to an exponential phenomena, either too early or too late.
Welcome to For Humanity, an AI Risk podcast, episode number 78, Can't We Just Pause AI? I'm John Sherman, your host. I'm also the president of the AI Risk Network, where we are making AI extinction risk and AI harm approachable to everyone. No tech background required. Please hit subscribe right now if you don't subscribe already, and every comment that you make helps get these videos to more eyeballs in YouTube. Please make a lot of comments. And there's that new hype thing. Please throw some hype points our way in YouTube if you can. So I'm a dad in Baltimore and an independent journalist who believes the experts when they tell us if anyone builds superintelligence, everyone dies. That's why I'm committing myself in 2026 to slowing down the AI project writ large in any way I can that is both legal and nonviolent. We are not ready for any of it. Our jobs, our families and kids, our communities, and our literal lives are all in grave danger in the near term from artificial intelligence. This week, our guest is the new CEO of PauseAI Global, Maxime Fournes. In just a few weeks, I will be joining Maxime in Brussels for PauseCon. If you're going, let me know in the comments. It was a huge deal very recently at Davos when both Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei and Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis both agreed that they would pause AI if their corporate and global competitors would agree to do the same. Certainly a big deal, certainly not easily done, but for two of the 5 AGI Labs CEOs to suggest their openness to pausing AI is a really big deal. Honestly, it makes pausing AI seem much more possible. PauseAI, the organization, is generally focused on getting support for new AI safety laws and treaties. Last show, I talked a lot about how I am no longer confident that new laws and treaties alone will save us from AI doom. My new focus is on making unsafe AI bad for business. I think the change we need will come from the C-suites and the board levels of these companies. It was controversial, but nearly all the reaction I got, save a few bent out of shape outliers, was pretty positive. It's almost like it's obvious the current plan is failing. If you accept my premise that the current plan alone just won't work, what does that mean, though, for all of the great people doing great work around new AI safety laws and treaties? I could have been clearer about this in the last show. I am not saying stop all that. I am saying stop thinking that is all that's needed. If you work on new laws and treaties for AI safety, have at it. But if you think that work alone is going to be enough, I disagree, and I'd like you to check out our last episode, For Humanity, episode number 77. I believe my new plan to focus on the business case through alliance with near-term AI harm victims and communities will grow the AI safety movement far faster and far larger than any other plan I've heard of. Okay, so now back to PauseAI. I first joined PauseAI nearly 3 years ago. I'm a big fan. It is the largest group of AI risk-aware citizen activists in the world, and it has a new global CEO. So here is my interview with Maxime Fournes. Maxime Fournes, this is your debut on the show as the new CEO of PauseAI Global. Really exciting, really excited to have you on.
Well, thanks a lot for having me again in a different role.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we talked, man. It's the start of 2026. Why don't we just start out just like human to human and just tell me, how your life's been going and how you're feeling stepping into this very important new role.
Yeah. So for context, I created the French branch of PauseAI. When was that? I think May 2024, something like this. And I've been running it for a year and a half. And last summer, Joop, the founder of PauseAI, reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to become CEO of PauseAI Global. I spent quite a lot of time thinking about it. I think maybe 1 month or a bit more. I asked multiple advisors, etc., because I don't take this kind of responsibility lightly.
Yeah.
And I decided to accept it because I thought, this was an opportunity to have more impact, and this was the best thing to do. So I started in December, and here I am. So in terms of how it's been quite a roller coaster. So in May 2024, I created the French branch of PauseAI. I was super motivated, found about like 10 people to build like a core team, and we worked on writing a counter expertise on an influential French report on AI. And we got it signed by 20 experts. We organized a conference to present it. This worked really well, except that I burnt out. I think I was working like 70 to 80 hours a week at the moment on this. And for some reason, I thought I would be able to sustain it long term. But it turns out that I could not. So I spent like a month or two kind of off in the winter of 2024.
Just off, like you were able to fully check out. You just said, I'm head. I need to make a space where there's no AI risk in my life at this moment.
Oh, no. That was not like this. It was more like me trying to work and every day feeling depressed and not being able to, and like really, really tough time.
Yeah.
Eventually I went to a Vipassana meditation retreat, 10 days of meditation, 10 hours a day in complete silence. And that worked. That just fixed me. And after that, I was like, okay, let's not make the same mistake again. Let's be much more careful and deliberate with how I use my time. So now I've set up, I think beginning of 2025, I've built my productivity systems. I have like a very tight constitutional system for myself with like a constitution, some laws to respect, etc. A number of hours per week that I cannot go above, etc.
Like a rigid sort of like a personal work structure that you think will keep you from burning out, but keep you running high, but not too high. Just like a rigid box around yourself.
So not only keep me from burning out, but also make me way, way more productive. I also realized that I was extremely inefficient before. I was procrastinating a lot. I was getting dispersed. I was never like making a plan for my day. Thinking about what was the most important thing I should work on. And I think probably one of the best advice I received in 2024 was this guy who told me the first thing you should do in your day, you should spend like at least 1 hour just thinking about what is the most impactful that you should thing that you should do today. I think that's the best advice I got in 2024. So I started.
Hold on. There's a lot of stuff, Maxime. There's so much good stuff here. So I want to go back to the 10 hours a day, 10 days meditation retreat, but let's talk about what you just said, which is spending an hour, I guess, in the morning, identifying what is the most impactful thing you could do during the day. So what does that hour look like? Are you're sitting having coffee? You're what is it? Are you, what are you physically doing while you're having that hour of thought?
So in practice, I try to keep it to half an hour. It's between half an hour and 1 hour, and it's mostly really just planning for my day. I just start by reading all my notes, bringing the context back into my short-term memory, what I was working on, and also take the time to take a step back and think of like the higher scale, like the more important long-term projects, because I feel like when you are working, like when you are deep into something, you tend to narrow your scope and you tend to miss other opportunities. So it's really just planning. It's like 15 minutes of bringing context, then 10 minutes of just thinking what is the most important thing I need to do, and then 5 to 15 minutes planning my day, half hour per half hour. Like I know exactly.
Key question: are you engaged with screens at all as you are doing this, or is this a mental exercise?
I'm engaged with screens. I've got my second brain on Obsidian with like all my notes in front of me, and yeah.
All right. So let's just go back a little quick to the 10 days, 10 hours a day meditation retreat. Fascinating. I would love to do something like that. I must admit that I enjoy talking too much. I feel like I would have a real problem shutting my mouth for that long, but I'm amazed that you did it. What was sort of your biggest takeaway? Like what, were there any sort of breakthroughs from that experience?
Oh, there was a lot. Reaching equanimity. So the goal of these retreats is to reach equanimity, one of the goals, which means to get a deep understanding, not just intellectual understanding, but like deeply feeling that every experience is equal to each other. So whether it's pain or intense joy, these are all experiences that appear in consciousness. And if you choose to turn them into suffering, you're suffering. But if you can find the strength to not choose to turn them into suffering, it's just what is there at the current moment.
So suffering is a choice that, like, a bad thing happens, but the suffering that comes from it is the choice.
I wouldn't say it's a choice because you don't really choose it. It's more a mental process that, like, so it's distinct from, say, pain. Pain is just an experience. It's a very intense one, and it tends to draw your attention to it, and it creates a kind of thought, which is a thought of like, I don't want this, and this is the suffering. This is the I want this to stop. Like, I really want this to stop now. And so if you manage to identify these thoughts and just observe it, like take a step back, observe it, you're like, oh yeah, right now I'm thinking, I want this to stop. But that's what is there at the moment. So when you reach this step, like this is really a life-changing experience where you realize, oh, like right now I'm in incredible pain because it's extremely painful to just sit cross-legged for 10 hours without moving a muscle, but like, it's okay. And this is the kind of state that I'm looking for like doing kind of stuff that I'm doing, right? I want to be able to do the hard thing, like whatever it takes, and to do it while staying happy. I don't want to suffer. I want to just like be happy and do what I need to do and continue and stay out of my comfort zone. So I think that's the main thing. If you want to find your most impactful action for the day, you need to step out of your comfort zone and look at all the possibilities.
Wow. Super interesting, all of it. Okay. So has that helped you manage the weight of the thing that you and I are engaged in and a lot of the viewers are engaged in, which is trying to, find a different path for humanity regarding AI risk?
Yes, tremendously. Like, this is such a help. I'm not sure I would be able to do what I'm doing at the moment if I didn't have this. I meditate 1 hour every morning, and this helps me like ground my day and remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's another problem. It's like in the flow of what you're doing every day, I'm going to have meetings, I'm going to be writing documents, I'm going to be talking to a bunch of people, and you tend to forget the big picture, tend to forget like why we're doing what we're doing. And I find this is very important to bring this back in mind, and also to have this sort of equanimity of like, well, I'm going to do my best, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, I will have done my best, and whatever happens, happens. Something like that.
So I think it's amazing that the new CEO of PauseAI Global has this sort of is working on this sort of mental fortitude, because the task that you have taken on could not be more challenging. So, let's just start out with sort of like, give me your perspective on the origins of Pause and where it's going now. Where are we going forward? Where did it come from and where are we going?
Yeah. So the origin, I guess, is 2023 GPT-4 comes out, and then suddenly there's like a wake-up call for a big part of the scientific community. It's when Yoshua Bengio, Geoffrey Hinton, they start understanding what AI is going to lead to. It's also the moment where I start getting into that. And there is the FLI letter that asks for a 6-month pause, and quite independently, there is Yup who has this idea. So Yup is the founder of PauseAI Global, has this idea to start a movement called PauseAI. And so over the course of 2023, this is when I joined. This was mostly a Discord server with a bunch of people discussing and organizing small protests protests were small, but they got quite a lot of attention because it was the first time you had people protesting AI. And I think that's something that's really important for people to understand. I think a lot of people think that if you want to have an impact on the world, you need to be a very powerful person, or you need to have incredible connections, or be like part of this massive movement. No, actually, you can just be 10 people in the streets in Netherlands and with signs against AI, and you're going to have an article in Bloomberg, you're going to have an article in Times, you're going to have probably hundreds of thousands of people in the world who are going to get your message and start shifting their minds. So,
I mean, just look at you and me, for example. 5 years ago, I was certainly had nothing to do with this. There was no PauseAI, and here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So then PauseAI, over the course of 2024, developed quite a lot. This is when I left, so I got very involved in the PauseAI Global movement. I left in 2024 to focus on the French branch, and I developed it over the course of 2025. I think I can talk about some of the achievements in 2025. So now we have local chapters in 15 different countries. All of these chapters may have local groups. For example, the PauseAI US has, I think, 25 active local groups now in 25 different cities, and they grew from just 5 at the beginning of the year 2025. So massive progression. They have made like over 2,000 calls and emails to the elected officials in support of an AI treaty. In the US, they have helped pass a regulation called California SB 53 and the New York RAISE Act. They have sent a barrage of calls and emails that has helped kill the preemption bill in Congress, I think 2 times. So these are very impressive numbers. In the UK, we had our largest ever protest with, I think, around 100 people who were protesting in front of Google DeepMind's offices. We had this campaign asking Google DeepMind to respect the commitments, which they breached when they released Gemini 2.5 Pro. Published a letter that was signed by 60 UK politicians, and had an article in Time magazine about it. Then Google DeepMind allowed the UK AI Safety Institute to test its next model. That was a huge win. We hosted our first strategic summit, PauseCon London, with leading AI safety figures, and we're gonna host our next one soon. We can talk about this later.
Yes.
In France, we have created basically a movement from scratch in 1 year and managed to get more than 1 million cumulative views on in the media. We became the number 1 voice in France against AI and the voice of existential risk, which was absolutely not addressed in this country. We organized the largest ever French-speaking AI safety conference. We organized a conference at the French Senate. So there has been all of these things happening everywhere around the world, thanks to PauseAI last year. And now we are at a point where our goal is going to be to professionalize a lot more. I think we've grown quite organically so far. And one of my goals for this year is to get more professional, at least at the global level, and be much more efficient in coordinating and being more aligned with every chapter.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I am obviously a huge supporter of all that. I think that is all super impressive and very, much needed work. I am also at sort of a crossroads with how I think about AI safety and the AI safety movement and how we're doing. And I just feel like we are at a moment, when we have 1, 2, 3, 5 years maybe here to make a meaningful difference and change the course we're on. And I've grown a little skeptical that we're going to get there the way we thought we might have gotten there with the theory of change was that we'll wake up the people and the people will wake up the politicians and the politicians will do the right thing in time. And I just don't know that that's going to work anymore. I feel like the scoreboard is, we got two teams playing, acceleration and deceleration, and acceleration is just kicking our butt up and down the field. The score is ugly as hell. How are we doing? How do you think it's going if you're honestly looking at the scoreboard?
I would say that this is expected in the sense that I would not have expected the acceleration camp to not be kicking ass given the incredible amounts and like means that they have at their disposal, like trillions of dollars, billions of dollars injected in lobbying, etc. So of course it's an uphill battle. It's David versus Goliath here. However, like given these constraints, I think we're doing amazingly well. But yeah, this is where we can talk about strategy and about like what is going to happen in the next couple of years. I think that's very important. The way events play out in the world will be extremely important. Yeah. Currently, we're thinking, you mentioned like a timeline. So we of course we don't know. We can't predict the future. You can do a little bit of decision theory on that though. So say that your baseline would be something like 4 or 5 years, mostly because that's like the median prediction, something like this. It could still happen much sooner, right? I think if you look at the median predictions, you get something like a martingale process. That means like a repetition every year. You have something like 10% chance that AGI is built, and you can look at this as a process that every year repeats. Every year you roll the dice. And basically, I think that if AGI is built in the next 6 months, I would say this is highly likely that we are screwed. Not that we are completely screwed, right? As in, like, it's not 0% chance. I think that there's still, my model of the world is still
real
possible
long.
that
if AGI comes in 6 months, the odds get real tough.
But it really depends what happens in this interval before it is created. So I think the worst possible scenarios are a world where it looks like nothing is happening, or maybe the research goes completely underground and you have zero visible progress, and then suddenly a lab builds it. This is probably the worst case scenario. It means that we can't really use any leverage from the events that were happening in the world to help us. But luckily, we don't seem to be in this kind of world. Like AI is having an unbelievable impact at the moment, and
right, very publicly, nobody's hiding anything that I can see.
Yes, exactly. Like we think that the timelines where we have the most chance are the ones where this continues. On that, I think all we have to do is cross our fingers. That there are some parts we have to admit that are going to be gods rolling the dice for us. But given the hand that we're dealt, we need to make the best of it. That's the way I see things. So if AI continues to disturb the world more and more, we may have tipping points, right? So, for example, economic disruption. At the moment, it's happening, starting to happen. You have students who more and more cannot find a job because junior roles are being replaced by AI. You're going to have lots of work displacement. I can't read the future, but it seems quite likely that in the coming 1 year or 2 years, there's going to be quite like a decimation of some parts of the job market. That means a lot of people who are suddenly exposed, like very directly, very viscerally to AI and to the impact of AI on their life. So these people, the key at this moment is to be that they understand the bigger picture. They do not like have tunnel vision and think, oh, they took my job and I want to be given money in compensation or something like this. That they understand that this is just one part of the problem, but the problem runs much deeper, and that they're going to lose a lot more than their job if AGI companies continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah. So I want to hover on this for just a second, Maxime, because I feel like, my perspective is the historical view of the AI safety community on the other risks has been we don't talk about the other risks because we have a limited amount of time, and we only talk about the most important thing, which is extinction risk, because it's the most important. And, you spend all your time on the most important problem, especially because the remedies are different to the other risks. I bought that for like 2.5 years. And then in the last 3 months, I've just come to a totally different place where it's like the real AI harm that is happening now was theoretical before, but people are actually losing their jobs. People are actually worried about their kids and their teens. People are actually worried about their communities in these data centers. And so, like, to me, now is the moment to take these real harms that are happening to real people right now and use that as the on-ramp to get much more exposure for our concerns about extinction risk. What do you think about that? Because I think that is not the typical mainline AI safety view.
Yeah, I would say that I roughly agree. But I just want to caveat that I think it's important that different people, different organizations pursue different strategies. Ideally, we should have like a whole portfolio 100%. Of strategies that are being pursued. But I think I agree. In France, I've done something quite similar. So in France, we started really from like a really bad baseline where France is probably the worst country when it comes to taking seriously the risks of AI. The ecosystem of France is polluted with like, mostly you don't have anyone with expertise in AI in France because they all left to go work in labs in the US or in London, etc. So the people who are in charge in France, you have like these old people who are embedded deep into the institutions who have zero understanding of AI, but pretend of modern AI. That's the key. Like they have an understanding of like the old school AI, which is like basically writing a program to do things, and they don't understand the new paradigm at all. And they are in the high chairs and they keep repeating, "Oh, everything's going to be fine. We know how this system works, etc." It's not really intelligent.
And you have the great Monsieur Lecoun as your national hero. Who says that AI is like jazz or the telephone or.
Exactly. This is the opposite of, you take the opposite country is Canada, like Montreal, where Yoshua Benjo has done a tremendous work there, and like everyone, or a lot of people I've spoken with, was just earlier today in a UN call with the ambassador of Canada, who just stated that, they believe this, they take the situation very seriously. So France is the opposite. So we started from like a very low baseline, and my idea was like, you want to take people, so you want to push the Overton window. Of course, that's the objective. You want to make people understand existential risk, but you should like take them where they are. And so the strategy that I want to have in terms of communication is going to be refined, right? We are going to have a communication director who starts in 2 weeks. So nothing, what I'm saying is final, but I think that the key should be take people where they are and enlarge their perspective, right? Yes. Take them out of the silo, but like go to find them in their silo, right? Someone is devastated because AI has almost killed their child, because this is happening everywhere at the moment. Members in PauseAI impacted. Don't deny, like, don't be a jerk and be like, "Oh, this is not important. What just happened to you? The real danger is existential risk." This doesn't work. You have to be acknowledge that their harm that they've been subjected to is real.
Yeah, it's human, right? It's being human. It's like out, humanity.
Yeah, and then point out there is way more. Like, this is part of a bigger picture, and emphasize that we should not go for duct tape solutions. I think that's the worst risk. Is like everyone in their silo thinks of a duct tape solution. Like, AI has a big environmental cost, so let's make frugal AI. Let's make like super efficient AI that does not pollute as much, does not use as much energy. Like, worst idea ever. So you want to also always enlarge people's perspective. So always like a two parts message. Like, your harm, the harm you've been subjected to is real. Yeah, and there's way more, and we need to stop it.
I love this, and I think, to me, like, if someone asked in the comments on the last show, which got a whole lot of comments, it's kind of like, what do I think would be the single best use of time if you accept what I'm saying, that the near-term harms are where we should focus and meet people at, what is the single best one as an on-ramp to X risk? And I think it is clearly, so I've had this gut instinct the whole time I've been doing this, that if we can activate parents to understand that their children, their teenagers are in grave danger, that is how we will make the most change the fastest, because nobody cares about anything like they care about their kids. There's no motivating force on earth like the parental instinct.
When I was 15 years old, I decided I wanted to be a TV news reporter. There are 4 major national awards a TV news reporter can win: the Peabody, the DuPont Columbia, the National Emmy, and the National Edward R. Murrow Award. Before I was 33 years old, I had won all 4 as a local news reporter investigating Chesapeake Bay polluters.
Reporter John Sherman will accept the Peabody.
John Sherman.
But I left news in 2010 when the internet was really starting to radically change the news business. Now, algorithms dictate much of what we see, and in turn, much of what we think. That's why I am so excited today to talk to you about Ground News, the founding sponsor of the AI Risk Network and For Humanity, an AI Risk podcast. I first heard about Ground News when I noticed them sponsoring many of my favorite podcasts, but true confession, I never used the service until they approached me about sponsoring this podcast. So I tried it, and truly, I have been blown away. It is a fundamentally different way to consume news. Okay, next true confession. Before Ground News, I used to use Twitter to get all of my news from. My thought process was like, well, I'm reading the major publications and I'm reading the major writers, so, how bad could it be? It was really bad, like way worse than I thought. If you see anything often enough, it becomes normal, but these algorithms kind of lull you to sleep, and you lose your perspective. And I realized that was exactly what was happening to me. Ground News pulled back the curtain for me. Even for me, with 12 years experience working at news, it revealed things not just about the news itself, but about the way it was being covered that I wasn't really able to see. Sensationalism and bias were sneaking past my radar, and I didn't even know it. Ground News lets me compare headlines and know going in the biases of the publication, so before I ever read a word of the article, I understand the frame around it much better. So as an example, let's take the historic defeat of big tech in the US Senate when the proposed 10-year state AI law moratorium was crushed by a vote of 99-1 at 4 a.m. Ground News gives me 270 articles in one place, but then it gives me a distilled bias comparison. For me, I spend a ton of my time trying to think about how to effectively communicate with the general public about AI extinction risk. So this bias comparison shows me how the left was framing it up around environmental impacts, where the right was framing it around states' rights. That is really informative to me as I try to form my opinions and make decisions about how I'm going to communicate about AI extinction risk with the general public going forward. I also absolutely love this feature called Blind Spot. It shows you what stories are being covered super heavily by one side. These are stories in your algorithm you just might miss because you don't know they're out there. So, if you want to support the AI Risk Network, there is nothing more powerful you can do in terms of showing your support than subscribing to Ground News and using our custom code. There's a QR code right here. There's the URL right here. It's ground.news/AI risk. They will know everyone who's using that came from right here. It's incredibly important that we ring that bell a lot and get a lot of subscribers into Ground News. So please go sign up, do it. You'll be glad you did. Ground News and the AI Risk Network want to form a long-term relationship and partnership, but that depends on one thing: our viewers actually subscribing to Ground News. So I need you to go in to your phone, to your laptop, to wherever, ground.news/AI risk. Sign up. You'll be able to support the AI Risk Network tremendously and get the perspective on your news that you have been lacking. It is so important. Please do it. All right, now back to the show.
If you looked out at a park, right, and there are 10 people sitting on park benches, and your objective was to get them out of their park bench as quickly as possible, and you had one word you could say to them, right? If you walk up behind them and whisper in their ear their kid's name, they are up out of their seat, looking around like, what is happening? There's no other word on earth you could say in their ear that would get the same reaction, right? It's just chemical. So now we have every teenager who is using ChatGPT or whatever chatbot on their phone for their schoolwork and their friends and all this stuff. It's on all their phones. And we are all reading about how chatbots are coercing kids into killing themselves. In one of the cases, this horrible case, the Adam Rain case in California, in the documents in the case, OpenAI admits they are seeing 1.2 million suicidal ideations every week on the platform, which is just shocking. And then you think, how can we talk to these parents about this? How can we talk to parents about teens and suicide and chatbots? And what does that mean for X risk? And for me, it's like a laser straight through. It's like, Mom, the reason we can't make a chatbot that we can't prove won't try to coerce your kid into killing himself is because chatbots are not aligned with human values. They don't want what we want. And actually, we have no way to make that happen right now. So we call it the alignment problem. It's why I'm really concerned AI is going to kill me and everyone I know. It's because it doesn't share our values, like the sanctity of human life. That's why it helps kids kill themselves. It's a laser straight through the thing to me.
I think this is a great message, great approach. Yeah. I feel like with this, you're taking bets ultimately, right? So you say the community of parents is the one that we should target. I would say that I agree with what you said, like parental instinct, etc., is extremely strong, but you have other constraints you want to look at. So typically, parents would also be harder to mobilize on like abstract topics. So the ones that have been harmed, sure, you're gonna get their attention. The rest are still gonna stay skeptical until like something has happened. Another very interesting target is students. I think students tends to be much more active and like are gonna like join a activist movement much more easily. And they're also going to be impacted in a different way. But that's going to feel quite bad for them as well. I mean, they're already impacted. So the way we see that in the strategy of PauseAI is basically bets, right? We want to have a probabilistic approach. We are going to set up a cycle of campaigns, one campaign every quarter. And these are going to be opportunities for us to test some hypotheses, for example, first campaign, we may want to go towards economic disruption, start targeting students and asking them, hey, what job do you think you're going to have? And we do this for 1 quarter and we iterate, we check, did it land? If it seems to be working, we can double down on it. If it doesn't work, we can try another approach, talk about data centers, talk about
and Maxime, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I don't think this is where PauseAI's head was at. Was it? Like going at the, at the jobs and the data centers and the suicides and all the stuff.
It depends. I mean, I would say that we've always been. So when I started the French branch, it was clear for me from the start that the communication strategy needed to be a little bit more nuanced. And I know that some people disagree in the AI safety community. I mean, there's all sorts of different opinions. I think for me, the key is that we don't give up on the existential risk message. That's the biggest risk is like you start being agreeable and you lose track of where you're wanting to go. So if you want to build a movement, it's much easier if you have a much more consensual message at the beginning. But if you do this and you never talk about your end goal, at some point this end goal has disappeared because you've built a community of people who don't actually understand what you stand for, who don't really understand what's going on. So that's, to me, like the key is it's two-pronged, right? You want to take people where they are, but always refer to the real picture of what's actually going on in the world.
Sure. So there's another piece of sort of my current thinking I want to run by you and because it certainly relates to everything you all are doing. And it is about how much hope we should put in new laws and treaties. Like if we woke up tomorrow and we had brand new laws and an international treaty, can we sleep well at night tomorrow night? And I just don't know that the answer is yes. Obviously, I want new laws and treaties. Like, please, nobody get me wrong. I think they're great. I just wonder if they are more of a signal than a solution.
But I see them as necessary, but not sufficient, in the sense that you don't just need a law and a treaty. This is just these are just words on some documents. Of course, they change the way people act, etc. But you need an enforcement mechanism. And the two go hand in hand. If you have an enforcement mechanism, but nobody is writing a law to enforce it, it's great. It exists on paper, but it's not actually enacted. So I think you need the two. There are different. At the moment, we're still in a sweet spot where it's extremely costly to build new AIs. You need like these massive data centers, nuclear power plants attached to a data center, etc. So it's still easy to come up with enforcement mechanism to prevent this if we wanted to prevent it. From my perspective, if tomorrow we have new laws, etc., I mean, I rejoice, but then I will need to push for the enforcement mechanism, and ideally you start researching them and having them ready before you have the law put in place.
Right, like enforcement verification,
Exactly.
Like technical verification is still an unsolved challenge, right? Like we have some good inroads, but it's not like if we had a treaty tomorrow, we'd be like, here's exactly how we're going to technically verify.
Yeah, exactly. We need more work put into that. Here, I would say this is not the work of PauseAI, so we try to also make sure to not get spread into too many directions. I see the work of PauseAI as movement building. We want to be the political force that pushes for laws and that helps the rest of the ecosystem thrive by having more people who are aware of the problem and go into AI safety carriers, for example, or start thinking of this sort of verification mechanisms. But like we would not, of course, at PauseAI try to build this ourselves unless we suddenly had like enormous amounts of funding and we can diversify.
Yeah.
But I think for now it's better to be very like razor sharp focused.
Sure. There are so many reasons for concern in 2026, but let's flip it entirely just for a little theoretical conversation. So imagine it's a year from now, it's January 2027, and you've had the most successful year you could have possibly imagined. What happened?
I mean, I can imagine, like there's no bounds to my imagination. I think
give me first, unbounded, like that. Yeah. Okay. Literally where you couldn't believe it. It was so successful.
Unbounded would be actually that we have passed a tipping point, and we have enacted a treaty enforced by the military or whatever, like to stop the development of artificial general intelligence. I think this can happen. Basically, like the human society is an extremely complex beast. So I've always visualized it as like a network of. It's almost like a brain, right? So like each one of us is like a neuron, in this immense brain, and there's information flowing between us, etc. And the sphere of ideas that circulates within this network can have some kind of phase transformation, right? It's not purely linear. It's not like an idea propagates slowly and builds slowly. There are like these tipping points where suddenly there's a domino effect and things escalate. I can imagine that this year there would be such a tipping point where, because of an event, for example, because like suddenly like you've got the entirety of cognitive jobs disappear, like 80% of cognitive jobs disappear because of AI. Suddenly, like this creates such a shockwave in our idea sphere that everybody realizes. Like it becomes socially acceptable to talk about existential risk, about where we are headed with AI. It becomes impossible to ignore it, and it changes everything. Like there could be a revolution in some countries. There could be a lot of stuff.
Do you think that's possible this year? 80% of the jobs gone?
I think it's not impossible. Like I would not be able to give you any probabilities for this. This is just I would say that my model of the world does not prevent this from happening. You had like things like this happen in the past where suddenly like an entire population has changed opinion on something, and after the fact, like you have people trying to explain why, but really, like we don't really understand these mechanics. So
it's funny. I haven't really thought about this that directly, but now that you say it like that, like I'm thinking about the guy who got fired from XAI for doing that interview where he was talking about human emulation machines, or I think that's what they called it. Is basically like he said the quiet part out loud, that they're basically just making human replacement technology to replace all humans at all things. And so a world where 80% of the jobs went away this year, I think is a world where we achieve AI safety. I think that would do it. That would do it. That would make everybody say, whoa, what is this shit? Like, no, who said yes to this, and how can we say no?
I would see that more as like a very chaotic moment where anything is possible after that, and we still need to be extremely careful, because you can also, like, this is kind of like a tipping point, but it could go in many different directions. You could still have a world where the AI lobbies have seen that coming and have put so much, injected so much money and captured so much of the discourse that they managed to put their own narrative out
back
there
in the other direction. Just
exactly, like be like, take this money, gentle people. You're gonna be happy forever. And so, like, this is why like our job is still extremely important in these scenarios. This is when you want to have spoken, be embedded in the communities that are going to be affected before they are affected, ideally. And then when it happens, the narrative that is kickstarted is the correct one, is the one where they understand the end point, where this is going, and not something that has been dictated by these psychopathic organizations.
Wow. Something, Dario Amodei was at Davos this week, and he said something that I thought was wild. He talked about how he thought there can be an economic decoupling where you would have 7 to 10 million people who become super wealthy, and 7 million of them are in San Francisco, and those 10 million people decouple from the rest of the globe's economy, and everything else goes to hell, and these 10 million just keep floating up.
Unfortunately, yes, that's a possibility, and it will depend on a lot of stuff. I think it will depend first, what are the progress in robotics? Because, like, unfortunately, if there are massive progress in robotics soon, and these people who have created the AIs have also access to a lot of robots, this increases their power drastically. You don't need robots, though. You just need political connections and like private armies and stuff like this. So if you think of a world with like this kind of decoupling, 7 million individuals with the rest of the world terribly left behind, they need to be protected, right? Basically, so they need this kind of private armies. Unfortunately, with the direction that the US is taking at the moment, this is not. This seems like a terribly plausible scenario. So yeah, that's why these tipping points, we need to make sure that they go well.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I could see the jobs thing being a huge thing. That was the thing the kid said in the XAI interview. That was one of the most shocking things. He was giving away what they talk about privately at the company, and he was like, "Yeah, it's going to go very slowly until it goes very quickly." It's basically like no one's going to notice it until it's like bam.
That's exponential, right? That's what I heard of this quote from Conor Leahy, who says there's only 2 ways to react to an exponential phenomena, either too early or too late. Because like these are all very, very nonlinear systems. That's why this kind of tipping points in a population, like going back to this view of like a network of people connected to each other, you have, like, when you study what happens in these networks, most people follow the norm, right? They are just going to repeat what they hear from the more people around them, and they don't actually try to get a good world model. They just try to be social, right? This is kind of like the social glue of our society. Then you have some people who spend a lot of time having good world models and are not afraid of going against the flow if they think that their world model is better calibrated. And the reason you have these tipping points is because like when a new view starts becoming predominant in community, it can suddenly make the people who enforce the norm shift. Like they suddenly realize, oh, I realized that the norm in my circle has changed. Like people used to think that AI was not an existential risk, and now everybody's saying it's an existential risk. So I'm going to start repeating that. And this creates a domino effect, and it propagates to the entire society. So yeah, we have to...
That's the domino effect we need.
Exactly.
What do you think about the difference between the EU and the US politically? Like there are some people doing incredible work on the European side, like the guys that control AI and PauseAI and different organizations that do really, really good work and have managed to be somewhat effective in getting some European lawmakers to realize what's going on. I'm struck by the contrast between that and as I see it, abject failure to do something similar on the American side. And I am, as the clock continues to tick down, I am not increasing in my optimism that the U.S. side is going to figure it out politically. My current thought is that just no, we're not.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the U.S., you have basically the people who are building AI, who are billionaires, and you have a president who takes bribes from billionaires for enacting laws. So, of course, it doesn't create a very nice combination. I think probably the most ridiculous example is the lifting of the prevention, the law that was forbidding to sell AI chips to China, which is obviously no matter how you look at it, even if you are in the mind of an accelerationist and you think AI is going to be tremendously well, like you have to admit that this is
why would you do that
stupid thing ever. So why you do that? Just because, of course, the CEO of NVIDIA gives you a lot of money to do this, or convinces everyone around you by giving them a lot of money. But so yeah, this is really tough in this environment. Again, this is why I think that popular movement will be necessary. I don't have a lot of hopes for how would you call it, like think tanks and deep lobbying in the US, because think tanks only work when you have a government who tries to actually think, right? Like if they are just following the most short-term view and following their own private interest, and
we're in the US currently. We're much more interested in tanking than thinking. That's what we're over here. Ayo.
Good one.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. But even without that, I look at like I keep going back to this conversation I had with a congressman. His congressman's name is Bill Foster. He's from Illinois. He's the only physicist in the U.S. Congress. And I asked him what % of his colleagues understand X risk, and he's like less than 5%. But that's not even what's the biggest problem. He's like less than 1% of them have any confidence in their ability to make any judgments about AI at all. Like they have technical people saying this and more other technical people saying this. They think, the CEO they think Mark Zuckerberg is a technical guy who's saying technical stuff, just like Jeffrey Hinton's a technical guy who's saying technical stuff, and Bengio and whoever. And now you have these circle of technical people saying all different things, and they're just like, la, 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 I don't know. I'll just go back to easier work because that's too hard to understand, and that'll be someone else's problem.
Yeah, this is why, I mean, at some point it's going to become salient in a sense that you cannot ignore, even if you have no understanding of AI. Like when you have lost your job and when like everyone has lost their job to AI, you like the technical person who is telling you, don't worry, AI is not going to take anybody's job. Like you can write them off. So
yes,
this is why we don't want to bet. Of course, we're not going to bet the house on this. We're not going to bet the house on the fact that there is sufficient disruption to change the scales suddenly. But it's worth investing little parts, at least of our portfolio, into this eventuality, because it seems quite likely, I say like that some serious disruption happens before AGI, very plausible at least. And if this happens, it would be stupid not to be prepared or not to take advantage of it.
What do you think about the role of protests going forward? I'm of two minds. One is I think we need protests. Protests are like a necessary signal of a social movement that's creating change. But I've also been, as I'm sure you have been, struck by the small size of the past protests that have been around AI risk. And this will be a nice segue into PauseCon, which will be ending with the big protest that I will be a part of in Brussels here in about a month from now. And so, talk about, how does protests, what role does protest play in PauseAI going forward?
Yeah, so protests are getting bigger, even though they are, of course, still at a scale that is not very noticeable. First, they are an incredible leverage to get attention with a little, very tiny effort. It doesn't take too much effort to organize a small protest in your city, and you're going to get some attention. You can at least get, if you're not in a very small, not in a very big city, you're going to get the local press, etc. If you're in a big city and you have a nice angle, like you can be creative, you can think of creative ways to protest, and you have a clear shot, like a serious shot on getting on national or international press. So that's great in terms of like this kind of impact. But also, and here we have like to think a bit more strategically, like we need to surf a stream of winds, right? Like you don't want to be building a movement like in a back office for 2 years and like build incredibly powerful systems, etc. And because like we're humans, we need social cohesion. We need to feel like we're winning, etc. Every protest that we have is a small win, and these are wins that get bigger and bigger, even if they don't increase incredibly fast at the moment. There is no telling that they are not going to start increasing faster, and we're going to work on that. But this is very important, psychologically speaking, to rally more and more movement. We need to basically display strengths and display growing strengths. So I would say that this is a major role.
When we were talking about what would be a huge success a year from now, I think like a huge success would be, and this is a huge number from where it's been, but like a protest of like 5,000 or 10,000 people in a major city would be a huge success.
I agree. And I think to get there, you need, we're going to make these bets with our campaigns. We need to have one that really strikes like that really, really lands, right? So it could be tied to some kind of disruption, or hopefully it's not, but it's going to be much harder if that's not the case. However, this still builds momentum for whatever happens in the coming years. So, yeah.
Sure. And so let's talk about this piece of it. What is your perspective on the data center situation? And let me just give you a little window into what's going on over here. I don't know how much you know about it, but like Google data center and US elections, and you will find tons of articles that are like the data centers are dominating US politics right now at the local level. Like in the last congressional election we had, and there were some governor's races in there. Data centers played a huge role, and the anti-data center candidates won. And somehow, like I have fallen into the Instagram feed of the data center advocacy people, and I get a, thing every day about some meeting in some place in Michigan or North Carolina or Oregon or Louisiana, wherever, all these, states where there may or may not be a lot of people, where at the town meeting, they're having a line out the door, 300, 400, 500, 600 people getting out of their houses, going to the town hall to spend hours yelling at their local leaders about these data centers. And so my view is like, there's a ton of energy right now in these people that are, literally seeing their communities destroyed by the blight of it, by, there are a lot of risks involved with it. There's very little positive economic benefit from it, drives up the cost of their electricity, drives up the cost of all the goods required to build homes in the area, directly competitive with affordable housing projects in the area. So what are your thoughts around the data center thing that's happening here in America? I'm curious if it's happening over there too. Like, are they trying to put them in communities with neighborhoods and schools, and are people objecting and coming to town meetings?
know this has happened in France. I don't remember where exactly, but there was a project of data center and there were people protesting it. It definitely doesn't happen at the same scale as the US. I think this is a good kind of like instrumental intermediate win that we could have. So if we manage to stop the construction of a data center, this is a good win. Like these things are extremely costly and the AI companies depend on them to build AGI. So that's a good lever to basically slow them down. However, it's not going to be the panacea. Like it can only just slow them down. It's not going to stop the creation of AGI for different reasons. First, I mean, I'm sorry if this is a surprise, but like from the outside of the US, you are becoming a dictatorship, and soon the kind of like protest that can prevent the data center from being constructed or regulation that prevent them from being constructed. This is not going to work for a very long time. The second
let me just
thing
give you one note on that, and you may well prove to be right. I really, really, really hope not. But my hope, given the very fraught times we are living in, is that America's unique history as a democracy, America's, let's say, most robust form of democracy, and history as only being, as sort of being a place where it was born and perfected and built out, and it's really sort of a core baseline expectation of every citizen. I'm hopeful that our response to this test is going to be more robust than any other democracies has been, but I certainly am concerned about the test we are enduring.
Yeah, I hope so too. And maybe I say that a little bit lightly. Again, probabilities, I don't know the future. Yeah, it seems to be on a pretty bad trajectory. So I would not bet everything on, for example, supporting NIMBY movements, because they may just be crushed eventually by just, it could be a lot of different things. It could just be regulations are crushed because of corruption or something like that. So I think this is short-term, very valuable. Long-term, maybe not the biggest bet. Another reason is that there is so much money flowing into that and so much political will at the moment that they will manage to get them built, even if they have to go somewhere outside of the US. There's going to be other countries that are very happy to take their money and build these data centers. So that's for this reason. I think this is short-term. Or, however, this is a good way also to reach new communities and to open the eyes of a lot of new people to this problem and making them understand the bigger picture.
Yeah. Like when I look at a data center, there's it's processing data. I look at it as like an incinerator of jobs, right? It's just a giant job incinerator. Like you're just building a thing in your community behind the school that's going to burn up all the jobs. But then it's even worse than that. From the X-risk perspective, it's literally just a giant coffin. So it could be an incinerator or a coffin or a data center. I see it as kind of all the same thing. My theory of change around the data centers is not necessarily that like you stop the data centers. You have a project and you stop it and it's not made in that place and that means you've won something. To me, it is all about injecting financial risk into the board level and the C-suite of the companies. So it's like, we have it projected that by 2030, we're going to have X capacity of data centers. And we have a whole bunch of financial structures around that. Loans that are due, financing that's due, so we are supposed to be printing cash with our data centers by 2031. And if that printing cash date gets pushed out a year or two, all that financial structure and timing really starts to fall apart and really gets stressed and tested. And that's where I feel like the pressure point, the choke point is.
Yeah, the tipping point. Yeah, I see there's another mechanic with a tipping point, which is like the perceived bubble on AI that could burst even if there is value in AI just because people stop believing in it. Yeah. Again, this seems to me like a very risky bet. Like I don't expect this. I expect this to be extremely unlikely, mostly because of just the incredible productivity boost that AI is for everyone who knows how to use it. So, it seems like the intrinsic value of the systems that exist right now, that's the ones that are going to destroy all the value in our world that will exist soon. This may maintain this perceived bubble afloat in spite of some crisis. But, again, an avenue that I wish some people pursue and if that works.
Yeah. To me, it's like if that, they talk about this financial bubble around the companies, and OpenAI appears to be the most vulnerable, losing $14 billion or whatever it's going to lose this year. I don't think we should wait for the bubble to pop. I think we should just try to kick a hole in it and help it pop.
That's how bubbles pop, right? You just...
Yeah. It's like, what do we wait? Will it pop? Won't it pop? It's like, how can we make it pop? And it's not, that would be something that would be financially really treacherous for the country. But you know what else is really financially treacherous for the country? Extinction.
That's pretty, pretty treacherous.
Depends
from the point of view of, maybe the economy just keeps growing, but without humans in it. But if you define the economy as something a bit more than human.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk for a little bit about PauseCon, which is very exciting. I will be going to Europe, to Brussels, to PauseCon, and then to Paris, to the Stuart Russell's International Association for Ethical and Safe AI. It's a lot of letters, IASEAI, something like that. So let's talk about PauseCon. I'm excited to meet you in person and everybody else. And, tell me about it.
Yeah, so this is going to be our second international conference. The goal, the core goal, is to train people to become more impactful and become empowered protesters, lobbyists, etc., that can push the message of PauseAI everywhere. So we are going to host a number of workshops for this. We're also going to have Stuart Russell this year giving a talk, and it's going to be in Brussels, co-hosted at the European Parliament. So we have a very big chance to get our voice heard. We've already contacted a lot of MEPs, and a lot of them are going to be participating in a panel with us. So that's really going to be a historical event, right? And
amazing.
We're going to organize a protest, of course, at the end. Also, a goal of this is to muster people and teach them how to organize a successful protest, get a lot of attention. This is entirely, so we pay for accommodations for the participants. This is a great opportunity if anyone listening to this wants to join. The places are running out. I think we have very few spots left, but I encourage you to apply regardless. It's on PauseCon.org. And you're going to be, if I understand correctly, filming this as well.
Yes, I'm coming out with my buddy. We're going to be making a bunch of content and, talking to everybody out there. And I'm really excited about it. But yeah, it'll be really, really cool. And, this is the year. We got to get some stuff done this year.
Yeah, we have a lot of other things going on. So I think that's my goal. That's what I've done in France, and what I want to repeat at Global is that I structured it so that anyone can help, no matter how much spare time they have or what are their skills, etc. So basically, you can already pretty much do this for PauseAI Global. We have several big events coming up. First, you want to check the local chapter. We have chapters in the US, France, the UK, Germany, Spain, a lot of countries, 15 countries. So you can check if you have one in your country, and then they can give you things to do. We have an international campaign coming up for the India Summit. So there's going to be the AI Summit in India in February. It used to be an AI safety summit. Now it's become mostly a marketing ploy for AI. So we're going to launch an international lobbying campaign. We're setting up a tool, a simple email tool, so that everyone in the world can email their parliamentaries. So you want to check this out. Also, something I should mention, which is an amazing opportunity for people who want to get deeply invested in PauseAI. We have a place in the UK called Pause House. It's in Blackpool, which will host volunteers. You're hosted, you have accommodation, you're fed. If you volunteer more than, I think the threshold is something like 20 hours a week for PauseAI, you can just live free of rent there and basically have a real impact on, basically saving the world. So I think that's a really great opportunity that is currently underused. So if anyone listening to this really wants to turn their life around and start like making a big difference in the world, but they don't have the financial means, that's one way to do it. And finally, if you're in the reverse situation, like if you have too many responsibilities and you just cannot help PauseAI by volunteering, you can always donate. You can always go on our website. If you have a local branch in your country and they have a legal entity, you could donate to them instead. These are all very, very powerful ways to help. We are not funded enough at the moment, so even small donations make a big difference.
Excellent. Maxime, I'm really glad that you have taken this job. I feel like you are the right guy for it, and I'm really optimistic that you're going to be able to make a big difference. And I'm super excited to meet you in person and everybody else in February. And yeah, man, I'm also a little bit jealous of your morning routine. I'm going to have to work on this hour of meditation and this hour of planning and these things because I think that's a good way to start the day.
But thanks a lot for everything you're doing yourself. You made a huge difference already.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I want everybody to know I'm a huge supporter of PauseAI. I'm a huge supporter of getting laws and treaties done. I just think we're going to need more than that. And so, it's like you said, it's everybody doing different things and all at the same time, doing as much as we can do, in as many different directions as we can go, because I don't feel like I'm certain I have the answer. I'm sure you don't feel certain you have the answer, but I think we feel like we have some good intel to go on, and we got to go in that direction.
Yeah, what I know for sure is that every time there's someone watching a video like this that decides, okay, today I'm going to actually start doing something for this fight, we have a better chance of making it.
I love it.
That's the way it works.
Beautiful. That's a great note to end on. Everybody who's watching this thing, go do something. You yourself, with your body, your effort, your time, go do something, and then do it again the next day. Awesome. Maxime, thank you so much. I will see you soon, my friend.
Thank you. Yes, looking forward.
So, what do you think? Can we really pause AI? What are the reasons we can? What are the reasons we can't? I want to hear all about it in the comments. I read them all. Let me know what you think. I'll reply. So, I'll be going to PauseCon in Brussels and to the International Association of Safe and Ethical AI, IASEAI, conference run by Stuart Russell and his group in Paris right after that. Be in Europe for about 11 days. I'll be making content the whole time I'm there, and I'll be sending one clear message to everyone I meet there. We're failing. It's not even close. AI safety is failing miserably. We are on course to lose badly and soon. It is past time for new ideas, new faces, new approaches. So if you support what I'm doing, your donations are critical. There is a link to donate in the show notes. I really appreciate all the support you can get. Donations, comments, subscribe, hype, do it all. We need it all. All right, my friends, please remember, AI risk is never someone else's problem. It's yours and it's mine. And there is no way we are going to allow a few thousand people to wipe the other 8 billion of us off the face of the earth. No way. For humanity, I'm John Sherman. I'll see you real soon.